In the heart of the city, where the skyscrapers kiss the clouds, lived a millionaire named Richard Langston. He was a man everyone admired, or feared. Tall, sharply dressed, with a smile that had more arrogance than kindness, Richard loved two things: showing off his wealth and making people laugh at others. Parties were his playground, and tonight he was preparing one of his grandest events yet. His mansion gleamed like a diamond in the moonlight, with fountains sparkling and lights dancing across the marble floors. Guests were arriving in luxury cars, women in flowing gowns, men in tailored suits. Laughter and chatter filled the air, but Richard had something more mischievous in mind. Earlier that day, his friends had joked about Maya, the black cleaning lady who worked in his building. She was simple, hard-working, always keeping to herself, and never asked for much. Richard, always quick with a cruel joke, smirked and said, "Let's invite Maya to tonight's party. Just for fun. Let's see how she reacts to the rich world she never belongs to." His friends laughed, some nervously, but the idea excited Richard. He imagined the scene, Maya walking to the grand entrance, unsure, awkward, perhaps embarrassed. It would be hilarious, he thought, the perfect joke for him and his friends. With a few texts, the invitation was sent. What he did not expect was a reply. Maya's message was short, simple, yet shocking. "Thank you for the invite. I'll be there. Don't worry, I'll come exactly as I am." Richard laughed out loud. Exactly as she is? Simple? Ordinary? This is going to be priceless. His friends joined in, unaware that this night would turn into something they would never forget. The evening began as usual. Guests mingled, drinks were poured, and music filled the mansion with energy. Richard walked through his party like a king, smiling at the compliments and chuckling at the jokes his friends made. And then the doorbell rang. A hush fell over the room. Everyone paused, curious, some with expectation, some with amusement. Richard's heart pounded, not with fear, but with anticipation. He could already picture the awkwardness, the surprise, the laughter he would enjoy. The door opened. There she stood, Maya, not wearing diamonds or designer clothes, not with a fake smile, not pretending. Just Maya. But something about her stopped the room cold. There was confidence in her stance, a calmness in her eyes, a presence that seemed to fill the entire hall. Guests whispered among themselves, "Who is she? She looks different." Richard's smirk faltered for the first time. He thought he had all the control, all the power. Yet, in that moment, he realized he could not predict her. Maya walked in slowly, greeting no one in particular, yet somehow commanding attention from everyone. Her head was high, her steps steady. She carried herself like she belonged here, not because of wealth, but because of self-respect and dignity. Richard's friends exchanged glances, confusion on their faces. What was supposed to be a joke suddenly felt wrong. Their laughter died in their throats. Maya's simple words echoed in Richard's mind. "I'll come exactly as I am." The room waited, holding its breath. Richard wanted to make the first move, to regain control, but something about Maya made him hesitate. She smiled gently at a few guests, spoke politely, yet every word had a hint of sharpness, intelligence, and subtle humor. By now, the initial curiosity turned into tension. No one expected the cleaning lady to arrive and command the room, silently, effortlessly. And Richard? He felt the first real pinch of doubt. Was his plan turning against him? Could she really outshine everyone in the room without even trying? As she moved further into the mansion, the suspense built. Every step she took, every glance she gave, seemed to challenge Richard silently. "Do you really think you can mock me?" And just like that, the millionaire's joke had taken a turn he never imagined. The party continued, but the eyes of everyone, from the richest guests to the smug friends, were now fixed on Maya. What would she do next? How would she respond to the world that had never welcomed her? The air was thick with anticipation, and the night had only just begun. The mansion buzzed with music, laughter, and clinking glasses. Richard Langston tried to laugh as usual, but a small knot of unease had formed in his chest. Maya, the cleaning lady, had arrived, or so the rumor among the guests suggested. He glanced at the door, his mind spinning with visions of awkwardness and embarrassment. But what happened next was something no one expected. Maya walked through the grand entrance, and the entire room seemed to pause. She wasn't wearing the sparkling gowns or heavy jewelry that most of the women flaunted. No, she wore a simple dress, neat and clean, with modest shoes. But there was something different about her, something magnetic that made everyone stop talking for a moment. Her eyes scanned the room calmly, as if measuring it, understanding it, and then quietly ignoring its pretenses. She smiled at a guest who accidentally spilled a drink, her gesture so polite and natural that it drew an unexpected chuckle from the crowd. Slowly, whispers started. "Who is she? She seems different. She's not nervous at all." Richard, for the first time that night, felt a chill. He had imagined her awkward, unsure, fumbling. Instead, she moved with confidence, but not arrogance. She did not laugh nervously, did not stumble over her words. She belonged, and yet she didn't belong, at least not by society's rules. A friend of Richard's, a tall man with a smug smile, tried to make a joke. "Hey, Maya, don't trip over the carpet," he said, expecting laughter. Maya looked at him, tilted her head slightly, and said softly but firmly, "Thank you for your concern. I'll watch my step." It was not a smart reply. It was better than that. It was polite, calm, and just a little bit daring. The friend blinked, not sure whether to laugh or feel embarrassed. The moment was subtle but electric, and the room seemed to lean in closer. Maya walked further into the hall, greeting a few guests with a nod and a smile. She spoke in simple, clear words, but somehow each sentence made her sound wise and composed, like someone had seen more of life than the richest people in the room. A few whispers floated through the crowd. "She's not what we expected. She's confident." Richard tried to recover his composure. "She's just a cleaning lady," he muttered under his breath, almost as if saying it would make it true. But he couldn't stop noticing the glances his friends were giving her. Their smugness was fading. Some of them were even admiring her, though they wouldn't admit it aloud. Then came a subtle moment that made the room gasp quietly. A waiter tripped, almost spilling a tray of drinks. Everyone froze. Without a word, Maya stepped forward, steadying the tray with a calm hand. "Careful," she said gently, and the waiter smiled in relief. That small act, simple as it was, made the crowd realize something. She was not afraid of this world. She could handle it, and she could shine in it. Richard felt the heat rise to his face. His joke was failing. The cleaning lady he thought would be humiliated was instead turning the party upside down without even trying. Every eye followed her now. Every laugh, every whisper, every smile seemed to orbit around her presence. As the music shifted to a slower, more elegant song, Maya didn't sit or hide. She moved gracefully through the room, talking to guests politely, laughing when appropriate, and quietly observing. Richard's friends tried to whisper insults or jokes to each other, but the words died in their mouths. The room had changed. It was no longer a stage for Richard's arrogance. The spotlight, unwittingly, belonged to Maya. And then, as if sensing the growing tension, she paused near the grand staircase and turned toward Richard. Her eyes met his, calm and knowing, and she smiled ever so slightly. The smile wasn't mocking nor shy. It was measured, confident, and almost daring. In that moment, Richard realized the game had shifted. The party was still alive, full of laughter and chatter, but a new energy had taken hold. Maya had arrived, and with her simple presence, she had upended expectations, unsettled the arrogant, and intrigued the curious. The night was far from over, and everyone, including Richard, could feel it. Something about Maya promised that this party, meant for ridicule, was about to turn into a night no one would forget. The grand hall of Richard Langston's mansion had never been so quiet. Music still played, laughter still floated in the air, but a strange tension lingered. Every guest, from the wealthiest investor to the most stylish socialite, was subtly watching Maya, the cleaning lady who had entered like a quiet storm. She moved with ease, greeting guests politely, yet there was an unspoken power in her presence that drew everyone's attention. Richard, standing near the bar, tried to maintain his usual charm, but he couldn't help glancing at her. His friends, once confident in their laughter, now whispered among themselves, exchanging confused looks. She's not embarrassed, one of them muttered, and she's not even trying. Maya made her way toward a small group of guests who had been discussing the stock market. One young woman tried to mock her under her breath. "Do you even know anything about business?" Maya smiled politely, unbothered, and said softly, "I may not own businesses, but I know a lot about people. That counts too." The words were simple, but their effect was electric. The young woman's smirk faltered. Guests nearby glanced at each other, realizing they were underestimating her. Richard felt a twinge of panic. His joke was backfiring spectacularly, and the room's attention was no longer on him. Maya didn't seek attention, yet it found her naturally. She complimented the food prepared by the caterers with sincere words, laughed at witty remarks without trying too hard, and even noticed small details others missed: a misplaced glass, a faint smudge on the silver tray. Each small act made her seem observant, capable, and graceful, qualities that money alone could not buy. Then, a subtle moment of tension arrived. A well-dressed man, known for his arrogance, tried to belittle her in front of the crowd. "Are you sure you belong here?" he asked with a sly smile, expecting laughter from his friends. Maya looked at him calmly, her eyes steady, and replied, "I belong wherever I choose to be. Tonight, that includes here." The room went silent for a heartbeat. His smug smile vanished, replaced by unease. Everyone realized that Maya was unafraid. She didn't just respond. She commanded respect with her words. Simple but powerful. Richard, who prided himself on controlling situations, felt a sinking feeling in his chest. He had imagined laughter, awkwardness, and embarrassment, but instead, Maya had turned the situation on its head. Every guest now saw her in a new light. Some admired her courage. Others were curious about her story, and a few felt a pang of guilt for ever underestimating her. As the night went on, Maya interacted with more guests. She had a natural charm, one that did not rely on wealth or fancy clothes. She listened more than she spoke, but when she did speak, her words were thoughtful and clever. She shared a simple anecdote from her life, making everyone laugh gently, not mocking anyone, just honest and relatable. Even Richard's friends began to notice. Their whispers grew quieter as they realized the truth. Maya had outshone them all without trying. Richard, who once felt invincible, was now anxious, fidgeting, and unsure of how to regain control. The subtle tension escalated when a guest offered her a glass of champagne. Maya accepted politely, but took only a sip. She smiled warmly, saying, "Thank you, but I'm fine as I am." That small act, simple, graceful, and confident, sent a ripple through the room. People began to murmur, "She's amazing, I like her, and even quietly, she's better than some of us." As Maya moved toward the grand staircase, the camera of attention followed her. Richard realized, with growing dread, that his night of jokes had become a night where Maya was the center of everyone's admiration. His plan to embarrass her had failed completely. She wasn't just surviving the party, she was thriving. And for the first time that night, the millionaire wondered silently, who is this woman really? The suspense lingered. Maya had entered the room quietly, yet she had already changed its energy. Every eye, every whisper, every subtle glance was now focused on her. And the night was far from over. The real surprises, the real impact of her presence, were yet to come. The mansion had changed since Maya's arrival. The laughter that once belonged to Richard Langston now felt softer, uncertain, almost nervous. His friends, who had expected a simple joke to humiliate her, were now quietly observing, their smirks gone. Maya had not even tried to show off, and yet she had become the center of attention. The music shifted to a slower, elegant tune, and the guests gravitated toward the grand staircase, where Maya stood with calm confidence. Richard clenched his jaw. He had imagined her fidgeting, feeling out of place, perhaps apologizing for her presence. Instead, she was poised, graceful, and unbothered by the opulence surrounding her. A moment of tension arrived when one of Richard's closest friends leaned toward him. She's turning the room upside down," he whispered. Richard forced a laugh, but it sounded hollow even to him. The joke he had planned was failing spectacularly. Maya began to move through the crowd with quiet authority, acknowledging guests with nods and smiles. listening carefully as they spoke. Every interaction was effortless yet magnetic. Guests found themselves drawn to her, subtly competing for her attention. Richard's ego twisted painfully. He realized that he could not predict her. She had not come to play by his rules. She had created her own stage. Then came the moment that changed everything. A wealthy socialite tried to regain dominance, whispered a cutting remark about Maya's appearance, expecting laughter from nearby friends. Maya turned slowly, her eyes calm but sharp. With a soft smile, she said, "I may not have your jewels, but I see things you don't. Perhaps one day you will notice more than appearances." A hush fell over the room. Her words were gentle, not harsh, but full of weight. Everyone paused, realizing she was not only unbothered, but had subtly reminded them of their own arrogance. Some guests looked ashamed, while others were mesmerized by her composure. Richard's stomach knotted. The party he had intended to control was now being controlled by her presence. Maya moved further, greeting the caterers, complimenting the food, and offering polite words to the staff. Every small act demonstrated grace, intelligence, and empathy, traits that money could never buy. Then came the ultimate show of quiet dominance. The millionaire himself, attempting to regain control, stepped forward and tried to belittle her gently. "Are you enjoying the party, Maya?" he asked, with a forced laugh, trying to assert his power. Maya looked at him, calm and steady, and replied, "I'm enjoying it because I'm exactly where I should be." The simplicity of her words cut through the room like lightning. His friends looked at him, finally realizing the situation. Maya was not afraid of him, nor intimidated by his wealth. She had turned his own game into a stage for her dignity and confidence. Suddenly, the party felt different. People started paying more attention to her than to the glitz and glamour of the mansion. Laughter followed her comments. Genuine admiration shimmered in their eyes, and whispers spread. "She's amazing. She's bold and intelligent." Even some of Richard's closest friends nodded, silently acknowledging her presence. Richard, for the first time in his life, felt powerless. His ego, which had always been untouchable, now felt fragile. He had tried to make her the punchline of the night, but Maya had become a hero of the evening, without trying, without showiness, just with self-respect and quiet confidence. The music played on, but all eyes were on her. Guests subtly moved closer, wanted to talk to her, asking her opinion, laughing at her gentle humor. Richard's friends, once loud and boastful, now murmured among themselves, uneasy. Maya paused at the center of the room, scanning the faces before her, and smiled softly. It was a smile of calm assurance, a smile that whispered, "I am here, I belong, and I will shine on my terms." Richard's heart sank. The millionaire who had thought himself untouchable now faced a simple truth. Maya had won the party. And this was only the beginning. The room held its breath. The night, which had started as a joke at someone else's expense, had transformed into a battle of poise, presence, and dignity. And Maya, with every small step, had quietly proven she could outshine anyone, without a single jewel or a fancy gown. The party had taken on a life of its own. Maya's quiet confidence had shifted the energy in the mansion. Guests no longer whispered about wealth or fashion. They whispered about her. Richard Langston, the millionaire who had thought himself untouchable, was slowly realizing that his joke had turned into a spectacle he couldn't control. For a moment, Maya stood near the grand staircase, scanning the room with calm eyes. She had observed everyone, smiled at them, and subtly interacted in ways that left the arrogant guests uneasy and the curious ones fascinated. But she was far from finished. Tonight was not about proving she belonged. It was about revealing the truth about herself. A soft murmur spread through the room as Maya began to speak. Her voice was steady, confident, and surprisingly musical. "I want to thank everyone for welcoming me tonight," she said. The room quieted instantly, each word carrying a sense of purpose and authority. "I don't usually attend parties like this, but I believe respect and kindness can exist anywhere, even here." A few guests exchanged confused glances. Richard's heart raced. What was she planning? Then came the revelation. Maya reached into her simple purse and pulled out her phone. She tapped it a few times, and suddenly, a screen lit up in the center of the grand hall. Photos, videos, and headlines began to scroll. Images of Maya speaking at conferences, leading charity events, and even managing a successful business she had built from scratch. The guests gasped. Some whispered, "I had no idea." Others looked at Richard, whose face had turned pale. His joke, the plan to humiliate her, had completely backfired. Maya wasn't just a cleaning lady. She was a self-made, intelligent, talented woman, capable of commanding a room in ways that money alone could never buy. Maya smiled, calm and composed. "I have worked hard for everything I have," she said simply, "but I never forgot where I came from. I clean because I respect work, not because I lack ambition. Tonight, I wanted to show that dignity and talent can exist in anyone, anywhere." The room was silent. No one knew whether to applaud or stare in awe. Maya's words were humble yet powerful, a reminder that appearances could be deceiving. Even Richard's friends, who had been mocking her earlier, were now looking at her with genuine admiration. Richard tried to regain his composure. "But why didn't you tell anyone?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. Maya looked at him, her eyes steady. "Because it didn't matter what anyone thought of me. Tonight wasn't about proving myself to you. It was about showing that judgment based on wealth or appearance is meaningless." The revelation had a ripple effect. Guests started talking to her, genuinely curious, asking about her work, her life, and her achievements. Maya answered politely, with humility, never boasting, but every word reinforced the fact that she was exceptional in ways no one had imagined. Even Richard's ego, so strong before, had begun to crumble. He realized that no amount of money could give him the grace, wisdom, and charisma that Maya displayed effortlessly. His friends, who had joined in the initial joke, now found themselves questioning their own attitudes, their laughter replaced with silent respect. As the night wore on, Maya continued to shine, not through wealth or showiness, but through honesty, intelligence, and quiet strength. She had turned the entire party upside down, transforming it from a playground for arrogance into a room filled with admiration and reflection. And in that moment, Richard knew one undeniable truth. The woman he had tried to humiliate had completely outshone him, not through money or appearance, but through her talent, dignity, and courage. The guests whispered in awe. The millionaire stared in disbelief. And Maya? She smiled softly, as if she had expected this all along. Tonight, the joke had been hers to command. The mansion, once filled with confident laughter and the clinking of expensive glasses, now felt different. The air was charged with a new energy. Every guest, from the wealthiest socialites to Richard's closest friends, was subtly aware of one undeniable fact. Maya had become the star of the night. Richard Langston stood near the grand bar, trying to regain control. He adjusted his tie, straightened his jacket, and attempted a charming smile, but nothing worked. He could feel eyes glancing at him, but not in admiration. The spotlight had shifted. Maya's calm presence, her dignity, and her quiet intelligence had captivated the crowd in a way money could never achieve. Maya moved through the room with ease, acknowledging guests with a nod, a smile, or a kind word. She spoke softly but with authority, answering questions and sharing small stories from her life. Every word revealed her wit, her resilience, and her charm. She did not need to show off. Her confidence alone was magnetic. A group of guests gathered near the staircase, whispering in awe. "She's incredible," one said. "I can't believe I misjudged her," another admitted. Even Richard's friends, who had earlier mocked her, looked uneasy. The arrogance that filled the room earlier was melting away, replaced by respect and curiosity. Then came a small act that caused a ripple through the crowd. A young man accidentally spilled a glass of wine near a table of guests. Everyone froze, unsure how to react. Maya stepped forward calmly, cleaned the spill, and reassured the man with a soft smile. "It's okay," she said. "These things happen." The simplicity of the gesture amazed everyone. She had done something ordinary, but with such grace that it made the crowd notice her in a new way. They realized she was not just confident. She was kind, aware, and composed, even in small moments. Richard's heart sank. Every move Maya made reminded him that his plan to humiliate her had completely failed. The joke he had imagined, the laughter he expected, none of it had come true. Instead, she had quietly turned the entire party around. Guests were now drawn to her effortlessly, asking her questions, laughing at her small jokes, and admiring her intelligence. Even the social elite who had believed themselves untouchable began to rethink their assumptions. Some whispered to each other, "We judged her too quickly," while others simply stared, captivated by her calm dominance. Maya had reshaped the night without raising her voice, without flaunting wealth, without demanding attention. Richard tried one last time to reclaim control. He walked up to her, offering a patronizing compliment about how impressive her courage was. But Maya simply smiled, looking him in the eye, and said softly, "I didn't need your approval. I only needed to be myself." Her words landed like a quiet storm. Richard realized that his ego, the very thing he had built his life around, was crumbling. Maya had achieved what he never thought possible. She had earned admiration, respect, and influence without money or power, simply by being herself. Guests watched the interaction in awe. Some nodded subtly, some smiled with newfound respect, and some whispered about how rare it was to see someone so genuine and strong. The millionaire's friends, once loud and boastful, now spoke in hushed tones, unsure what to say. Maya continued to move through the party, effortlessly engaging with people, offering kindness, humor, and insight. She had become the heartbeat of the evening, the presence everyone admired and remembered. Richard, standing in the corner, felt a mixture of awe, envy, and disbelief. For the first time, he understood the truth. Wealth, status, and arrogance meant nothing without character, intelligence, and self-respect. Maya had not just survived the party. She had transformed it. She had taken a room full of the rich and powerful and turned it into a space where respect, grace, and humility shone brighter than diamonds. The night was far from over, but one thing was clear. The turning point had arrived. Maya was no longer just a guest. She was the unspoken ruler of the room, and Richard's world of mockery had quietly collapsed. The mansion had transformed completely since Maya's arrival. The party, which had begun as a playground for Richard Langston's arrogance, had now become a stage for her quiet dominance. Guests whispered in admiration. Laughter was warm and genuine, and the atmosphere had shifted from shallow luxury to respect, curiosity, and awe. Maya moved gracefully through the crowd one last time, greeting each guest with a calm smile and engaging in small conversations. She laughed softly at clever remarks, complimented honest efforts, and offered subtle guidance when needed. Every movement she made drew attention, yet she seemed unaware of the power she held. She didn't need to dominate the room. She simply existed in it, and that was enough. Richard watched from across the hall. His pride, once unshakable, now felt fragile. He had invited her as a joke, imagining ridicule and embarrassment. Instead, she had become the center of every eye, commanding admiration without arrogance. The realization hit him hard. Wealth, influence, and status meant nothing compared to confidence, intelligence, and grace. As the evening reached its peak, Maya paused near the grand staircase. All eyes, knowingly or unknowingly, followed her. She glanced around the room, making eye contact with guests she had spoken to, acknowledging them with warmth and humility. And then, in a simple yet unforgettable gesture, she raised her hand and addressed the entire room. "Tonight has been extraordinary," she said softly, yet her voice carried clearly to every corner. "I came here as a guest, invited as a joke, but I realized something important. Respect, dignity, and kindness are what truly make a person remarkable. Wealth does not define character, and status does not determine worth. Each of us, regardless of where we come from, has the power to shine in our own way." A hush fell over the mansion. Her words were gentle but profound, and the room absorbed them with quiet reverence. Guests exchanged glances, realizing the night had turned into a lesson none of them would forget. Richard's friends, once mocking and confident, now looked at her with silent respect. Even the millionaire himself felt a deep sense of humility. Then, she did something unexpected. Maya walked toward the center of the room and, with effortless poise, danced briefly to the slow music, not showily, but with elegance that left everyone captivated. The simple movement radiated confidence and joy, and whispers of admiration spread like wildfire. Some guests even clapped softly, not for wealth or status, but for her spirit and presence. Richard could barely breathe. He had thought he ruled the room, that he controlled the story, but Maya had rewritten it entirely. She had turned his joke into her triumph, not by confrontation or arrogance, but by being unapologetically herself. As the night drew to a close, Maya approached the exit. She nodded politely to the guests, exchanged warm words, and gave a final smile to Richard. It was not a smile of mockery nor of pride. It was calm, serene, and filled with quiet triumph. Richard, left in her wake, finally understood the lesson. Respect and dignity were far more powerful than wealth or jokes. Guests lingered near the doorway, talking excitedly about her courage, grace, and intelligence. They had witnessed something extraordinary, not just a party, but a transformation perception, a reminder that true power lies in character, not riches. Maya stepped out of the mansion quietly, leaving behind a room buzzing with admiration, reflection, and awe. The millionaire, humbled and thoughtful, realized he had been bested, not by wealth, not by status, but by a simple, remarkable woman who refused to be underestimated. And in that moment, one truth shone brighter than all the chandeliers and diamonds in the room. Confidence, kindness, and self-respect can outshine anything money can buy. The party ended, but the legend of Maya, the black cleaning lady who arrived as a joke and left as a diva, would be remembered by everyone who witnessed it.